You've been alone for so long that you've almost forgotten what real connection feels like. Then you meet someone, and within 5 minutes, something impossible happens. No small talk, no performance, no masks. You're speaking about shadow work, synchronicity, and the death of the ego, like it's the most natural conversation in the world. There's no awkward getting to know you phase. You dive straight into the depths because you both live there. And for the first time in years, you're not translating your experience. You're just seen. Carl Jung called this recognition of the self in the other. He discovered that when two genuinely awakened souls meet, something occurs that defies normal relationship dynamics. Not a romantic fantasy. Something far more rare and psychologically profound. I'm about to reveal what Jung observed actually happens when two conscious people encounter each other, why it's nothing like what spirituality teaches, why it's more challenging than you'd expect, and why these meetings change both people permanently. Here's what changes everything. Jung discovered that awakened souls don't connect the way normal people do. They recognize. Not recognition of the person, but recognition of consciousness itself. It's like two radios finally tuning into the same frequency after years of static. Most spiritual teaching romanticizes this as blissful union, cosmic love, finding your other half. But Jung witnessed the reality in hundreds of patients and discovered something completely different. When two truly conscious people meet, they don't complete each other. They see each other. And being seen at that level is as terrifying as it is liberating. Because here's what spirituality doesn't tell you. Awakened people have integrated their shadows, faced their darkness, dismantled their personas. When two such people meet, there's nowhere to hide. No mask works. No performance lands. You're standing in front of someone who can see through everything you've used to protect yourself your entire life. This creates 5 experiences that Jung identified as universal when awakened souls meet. Experiences that are simultaneously the most intimate and most exposing possible. The first one happens before you even speak. Jung's first observation. When two awakened souls meet, recognition happens before words. It's not what they say, it's what they sense. An energetic frequency match that occurs beneath language. You're in a room full of people, and your attention gets pulled to someone. Not romantically, something else. You feel their presence before you see their face. When you make eye contact, there's a jolt of recognition. Not, I know you, but I know what you are. Jung called this the self-recognizing itself. You're not attracted to their personality or appearance. You're recognizing the same quality of consciousness you've developed in yourself. It's like two people who've learned the same rare language, suddenly hearing it spoken. One of Jung's patients described this. We didn't even speak at first. I felt her across the room, not her energy, her consciousness. When we finally talked, we started with, "How long have you been awake?" Because somehow, we both knew that's what mattered. This recognition is cellular, energetic, instantaneous. You sense, this person has done the work. This person has faced their darkness. This person speaks the language no one else speaks. But Jung observed, this recognition often comes with fear, because if they can see your light, they can see your shadow too. There's no hiding your incomplete integration, your remaining wounds. You're transparent in a way you've never been before. A man described meeting an awakened woman. Within 10 minutes, she named patterns in me I'd been hiding from myself. Not judgmentally, observationally, I felt naked. My first instinct was to run. My second was to stay because finally someone could see all of me. Jung discovered that this depth of seeing either creates profound intimacy or immediate distance. Some people meet, recognize each other, and never speak again. The transparency is too much. Others begin what Jung identified as conscious companionship. But the recognition is just the beginning. Because Jung discovered something even more unsettling happens the moment you try to connect the way you're used to connecting with everyone else. This is Jung's most devastating insight about conscious connection. When two awakened people meet, all personas dissolve on contact. The masks you still unconsciously wear, the roles you didn't realize you were playing, the subtle performances you thought were your authentic self, they all become visible and impossible to maintain. You try to present your spiritual persona, the wise one, the healed one, and they see right through it. You attempt your humble persona, the still learning one, and they see through that too. Every strategy you've ever used to control how people perceive you simply doesn't work. One of Jung's patients described this. I met another therapist who'd done deep work. I tried to relate therapist to therapist, demonstrating my knowledge. She just looked at me with this gentle expression. Finally, she said, "You can stop performing now. I'm not here to be impressed." I almost cried. I didn't even know I was performing. This is the death of all personas in conscious relationship. You can't maintain your spiritual identity, your intellectual identity, your wounded healer identity, nothing. The awakened other reflects back your authenticity and your falseness with equal clarity. When both personas drop, what Jung called self-to-self communication becomes possible. You're not two egos relating, you're two conscious beings meeting without mediation. The conversation flows from depths you didn't know you could access in dialogue. You find yourself saying things you've never articulated before. Truths you've carried in silence suddenly have words. Jung observed this in his own meetings with individuated people. The conversation itself became a creative act, generating wisdom that neither person possessed alone. A woman described this. We speak in half sentences because we're tracking the same thing. I'll start a thought, she'll finish it somewhere deeper. Within minutes, we're in territory neither of us could have reached alone. It's not conversation, it's collaborative consciousness exploration. But here's what Jung discovered that most people never expect. Once the personas drop and real communication begins, you realize that words themselves become optional. Because awakened souls have access to something far more intimate than language. This is Jung's most counterintuitive discovery. When two awakened people meet, silence becomes more intimate than speech. Not awkward silence that needs filling, not uncomfortable quiet that demands distraction, but communion in silence, presence meeting presence without words. With unconscious people, silence is unbearable. There's pressure to fill it, to perform, to maintain connection through constant talking. But Jung discovered that awakened people can sit in silence together and feel more connected than they ever felt through conversation. This happens because both have developed what Jung called presence, the ability to be fully here without needing to do anything. When two people with developed presence meet, their combined presence creates a field. Sitting in that field silently becomes profoundly nourishing. One of Jung's patients described meeting a monk. We sat together for an hour barely speaking, but I've never felt more seen, more understood. His silence met my silence. When we finally did speak, it was like we'd been having a conversation the entire time. We had, just not in words. This is the language beyond language. Awakened people have learned to track consciousness itself. Thoughts forming, emotions moving. When two such people meet, They're simultaneously experiencing their own consciousness and sensing the others. Communication happens at a level that doesn't require speech. Jung observed that his most profound connections with individuated people often involved very few words. They could sit together for hours, each doing their own inner work, occasionally sharing an insight, but mostly just being present together. And that shared presence was more connecting than years of normal friendship. Now, if you think recognition, transparency, and silent communion sound intense, they're nothing compared to what Jung discovered makes these relationships possible in the first place. Because there's one thing awakened souls have done that changes everything about how they relate. If you've experienced this, if you've met someone and felt instantly recognized, if all your masks dissolved on contact, if silence felt more intimate than speech, Jung would say, you've encountered another awakened soul. Before we continue, check out our new guide, True Self-Discovery, with 24 practical reflection exercises designed to help you find your way within. Click below to get True Self-Discovery. Now, these final 2 patterns reveal why these meetings are both transformative and challenging. Here's Jung's breakthrough that explains why awakened souls can connect in ways unconscious people never can. When 2 awakened people meet, they can actually be intimate, because both have integrated enough shadow to not project it onto each other. Think about why normal relationships fail. You project your unintegrated shadow, you idealize them, then demonize them. You fall in love with your projection, then hate them when they don't match it. You're never actually relating to them. You're relating to your own unconscious material dressed in their appearance. But people who've done shadow work can meet without this projection machinery. You see their light and darkness simultaneously. You're not idealizing or devaluing. You're seeing them clearly. Human, flawed, growing. And that clear seeing creates real intimacy. One of Jung's patients described this. I could see his shadow clearly, his remaining wounds, his defensive patterns. And instead of being disillusioned, I felt more connected. I wasn't in love with a fantasy. I was choosing relationship with a real human who's doing the work, and he chose me anyway, seeing my shadow too. That mutual seeing and choosing anyway. That's intimacy I didn't know was possible. This creates what Jung called conscious relationship. Both people know they're imperfect, both can see each other's imperfection, and both choose connection anyway. Not from need, not from projection, but from genuine recognition. But here's what makes this challenging. Conscious relationship requires constant truth. You can't hide your shadow spikes. You can't pretend you're more integrated than you are. Every moment of projection, every defensive pattern, the other person sees it, and you have to own it, work with it, integrate it. There's no coasting. Jung observed that many awakened people who meet eventually part ways, not from conflict, but from the intensity of being constantly seen. One woman told him, being with him was the most real relationship I ever had. And it was exhausting. Every interaction demanded complete authenticity. Eventually, I needed rest from being that conscious. But for those who can sustain this level of transparency, Jung discovered something remarkable happens. The relationship itself becomes a vehicle for something he considered essential to the awakening process. This is Jung's final and most profound insight. When 2 awakened people stay connected, they become what he called mirrors for mutual individuation, each reflecting what the other needs to see for continued growth. This isn't codependency. It's not, you complete me. Both people are already individuating, already whole enough. But Jung discovered that consciousness develops faster in proximity to other consciousness. The awakened other shows you blind spots you couldn't see alone. Jung's relationship with colleague Tony Wolfe exemplified this. She could see aspects of his unconscious he couldn't access alone. She reflected his shadow, challenged his certainties, pushed his growth, not from criticism, but from her consciousness recognizing what his was ready to integrate next. A therapist described this. She'll casually mention a pattern I'm running that I was completely blind to, not from judgment, from observation. She can see my consciousness clearly enough to notice where it's avoiding or stuck. And I do the same for her. We've accelerated each other's growth by years. This creates what Jung called the alchemy of conscious relationship. Two people who transform each other through mutual seeing, mutual truth-telling, mutual commitment to consciousness over comfort. They're not trying to change each other. They're being themselves so fully that it reveals what the other needs to see. But Jung was clear. This only works when both people are committed to growth over harmony. The moment one prioritizes comfort over truth, the mirror clouds. Conscious relationship requires both people to value truth more than the relationship itself. A man described why his partnership ended. We were perfect mirrors for 2 years. Then she got tired of seeing her shadow reflected. She wanted me to stop noticing. She wanted comfort. I wanted growth. We valued different things. She valued peace. I valued truth. What really happens when two awakened souls meet? Recognition happens in silence before words. All personas dissolve on contact. You can't hide. Silence becomes communion beyond speech. Shadow work makes real intimacy possible. No projection, just clear seeing. They become mirrors for mutual individuation, accelerating each other's growth. This isn't the romantic fantasy spirituality sells. It's not effortless union. It's the most real, most exposing, most transformative connection possible. You're meeting someone who sees you completely, and that demands complete authenticity. These meetings are rare not because awakened people are rare, but because most can't tolerate this level of transparency. We've worked hard to become conscious, yet still want to control how we're seen. But conscious relationship offers no control, only mutual revelation. These meetings don't complete you, they reveal you. They don't fix loneliness. They transform it into chosen solitude temporarily shared. They don't make life easier. They make life realer. If you've met another awakened soul, you know this isn't what spiritual books promised. No fairy tale romance. No instant best friend. Just two humans who've done enough work to be real with each other, and that realness is both gift and demand. Jung would want you to know, these meetings are rare, but they're not the goal. The goal is your own individuation. If you meet another awakened soul along the way, extraordinary. If you don't, you're still complete. Conscious relationship is a bonus of awakening, not the purpose. If you're waiting for this meeting, use the waiting to become more whole, because the more integrated you become, the more capable you are of sustaining conscious connection when it appears. These relationships don't happen to people looking for completion in others. They happen between people who've found completion in themselves. And if you've had this meeting and lost it, Jung would say, the meeting fulfilled its purpose. Maybe it showed you what's possible. Maybe it accelerated your growth, then released you. Don't idealize these meetings. Appreciate them as rare moments when two people swimming in consciousness depths breach the surface simultaneously, recognize each other, and choose to swim together for however long it serves both. The awakened life is mostly solitary, but these meetings remind you that you're not alone in your aloneness. And that recognition, even if brief, changes everything. Subscribe to explore Jung's insights on conscious relationships and navigating awakening. To dive even deeper into Jung's revolutionary psychology and what it means for your spiritual awakening, click the recommended video on your screen now.